you doing? That's good.
He is very gentleman.
Yes.
Any questions? Feel free to ask my
Okay, I will. It probably will be coming to you soon, but I'll tell you what that is. Well, Scott, I'll tell you
One like we're able to shield number so we could check and
That's good, thank you.
it is, yeah. Do the report generation.
Hi.
My grandparents and then there were 4 sons, right? And then
Hi everyone, good evening.
my generation.
I am supposed to remind the boards that they should participate in the aviation roundtable and send 2 representatives to the meeting. So all of the boards, they know who they are. Okay, all the boards are supposed to have 2 representatives at the aviation roundtable. So please remember to send your representatives. If you're not getting the emails or you need some other way to provide that information, please let us know, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Has there been an issue with the attendance? Is that the idea?
Yeah, basically. I think that the issue is that maybe there's some confusion as to maybe, and I don't know if you guys are getting all the emails or not. If you're not, let us know. But I think the idea is just to send a representative. I think all of you guys gave Barbara and Warren people that should be representing you, but if for whatever reason that person can't go, just send somebody else. Because then, they want to have a forum, they want to be able to hear your thoughts on whatever business or stuff is. That's the idea.
All right, thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the new chair of Board 12, Renee Cheatham Hill. We look forward to working with you. And just so you know, Mark McMillan is here, District Manager of Board 13. There was an issue with the transportation for Clive at the last minute, so Mark is sitting in at the table with us as a great observer of the Borough Board. Yay! Okay, good. And I would like to very quickly, because we need to start, because there's a time issue here, anybody representing elected officials? Please stand up, state the elected you're representing, and then we're going to move on to the Port Authority.
Jessica Douglas, Mayor's Community Affairs Unit.
Jamie Cuddy, and I'm representing Councilmember Adrian Adams.
Thank you.
Andrew Zillow with the Office of Councilmember Van Draper.
Thank you.
Anthony Toronto, First Senator, Leroy Common.
Scott Seaver from Peter Cruz's office.
Thank you.
Yanchi Muniz from Councilmember Gorganchi's office.
Thank you.
Evia Cardoza from Councilmember Drum's office.
Thank you.
Manuel Silva, Councilmember Chi's office.
Thank you. It's important for all of us to know that our council members and assembly members and senators are represented here in the mayor's office. And so we appreciate that very much. And having no other business at hand except for thanking everyone for showing up at the tree lighting, yay, outside. We have our Christmas tree lighting today. We have our Hanukkah candle lighting on December 12th at 4:30, and we have Kwanzaa lighting on December 27th. So we would love it for everyone to join us at those great events. Today we have the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, which builds, operates, and maintains critical transportation and trade assets. Its network of aviation, rail, surface, transportation, and seaport facilities annually moves millions of people and transports vital cargo. With us this evening we have Huntley Lawrence, Director of the Aviation for Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, who will provide an update and answer questions on the LaGuardia Airport redevelopment, LaGuardia AirTrain, and JFK Airport redevelopment projects. I'm sure none of us have questions on any of those. We welcome Mr. Lawrence. We also welcome Pat, who's always been a great friend from the Port Authority. And I think Justin is here, and Hirsch is here representing the governor's office. Good. Thank you. Please begin, Mr. Lawrence.
Great, and thank you, and hopefully everybody can hear me. It's great to be here.
It's been a long time since I've been in this building. I used to actually live right down the street in Briarwood many years ago, so it's great to be back in this location again. So thank you for the opportunity to come here today to brief you on the work that we're doing at both LaGuardia and JFK airports. We have a lot of material to cover today, so we're just going to get started and get right into it. I guess I've got to use both hands. All right. So the first thing is I'd like to give you a bird's eye view of basically what LaGuardia Airport looks like today and what it's going to look like in the near future. With new terminals, concourses, garages, all unified under one roof, sustainable, open, roomy, and when you ever hear the words roomy and LaGuardia in the same sentence, right? But it's a pretty spectacular transformation of the airport for an airport that will celebrate its 80th birthday in 2019. And the best of all, it's going to create levels of efficiency that we have grown to expect in this area from facilities. And really up to the far left corner, we start with the west garage. You've got the Terminal B, Concourse A, the Central Hall, Concourse B, and then you start to look at the east parking garage and the facility that Delta Airlines is going to be building for us. So, like all great ideas, they really begin with a great vision. I think Governor Cuomo didn't just address our needs today. He made sure that we were forward-looking and with provisions for future hotels and rail and job and opportunities for the people here in Queens. So part of that advisory panel visions guidance was a single unified airport, airside improvements, sustainable and resilient airport, local employment and WME opportunities, a potential on-airport hotel, improved roadway congestion, cell phone lots and wait areas, adequate on-airport parking, and obviously something that I learned today, that a future airport rail connection is important. I did the commute from the city today, and I can tell you it's quite congested. So a job this big can't be done alone, and the two key partners that we have in LaGuardia's makeover are LaGuardia Gateway Partners for Terminal B and Delta Airlines for Terminals C and D. Together, both of them are very, very vital in the transformation of this airport. LaGuardia Gateway Partners is really comprised of a Canadian company, Vantage Airport Group. We've got Skanska, Meridian, and JLC Infrastructure for development and equity investment. And Skanska Walls as the design and build joint venture, HOK and WSP, formerly Parsons Brinckerhoff, for design, and Vantage Airport Group for management of the terminal and operations. All part of a very significant $5.1 billion P3 investment for Terminal B. So, what's it look like for the future? So here's a snapshot of the future of Terminal B. This is a close-in look based on the initial slide that I shared with you. And what's really noticeable here is that how different the aeronautical space is. That's the area where aircraft actually will maneuver on the ramp where they will taxi. It's significantly larger than what we have today, and it's going to really create better flow, better space, and improve the flow of aircraft overall at LaGuardia Airport. That's very, very important for us. It allows planes to move more freely and expeditiously in ways that they cannot do today. And here you also see the what we call the head house. That's going to be the processing facility at Terminal B, the west garage up into the corner, and then also the concourses A and B, which are actually the locations where we will accommodate passengers at their gate facilities. Should be a significant improvement over the experience for customers today. And over at Terminal C and D, Delta is doing extensive work that will include a new unified terminal, a centralized check-in lobby, and safer access to the garage, and much, much more. That's all part of a $3.4 billion investment that Delta is making at what we call the east end of the facility. It includes not just the terminal, but also Port Authority participation in roadway work and infrastructure as well to support the project. So let's look at an update of what's going on at Terminal B. And I know it's very hard to appreciate from nearby roadways how much already has been done. But you can see here that the new terminal is already taking shape. And I'll tell you that if you look at this facility from month to month, you'll see significant change in the amount of steel that's been moving around. But there is a significant amount of construction going on. I'll say that progress has been good, not necessarily as fast as we would like. It's never as fast as we would like. But progress continues to move and go very well for Terminal B. In terms of the roadways themselves, the same is true for the roadways and the bridges nearby. A significant amount of construction and good progress so far. And sort of beyond the concourses out in the airfield, there's an incredible amount of work taking place. And it really is going to help us to deliver a more efficient LaGuardia airport. And efficiency for us is very, very important because you're dealing with an airport that's got a very, very small footprint. In terms of the size of airports, for us, 650, 700 acres for LaGuardia Airport, that's relatively small when you look at airports across the country. So it's really important for us to do things that are smart and efficient. And the things that we're doing, both for the terminal side and also the air side, are going to allow us to make this into a more efficient airport. But obviously, we're working in a very, very tight site, and coordination is just very, very important. And we're also doing is we're making sure that we are doing a responsible job on, and also a sustainable job on the environmental side as well. So the new LaGuardia Airport is a green building designed for improved environmental and human health performance. This is our commitment to ensure that we've got a LEED silver certification. That's really measured by sustainable site development, water savings, energy efficiency, material selection, and indoor environmental quality. And that really is just really the start of our commitment on the environmental side. We're also focused on things like solar, electric vehicle accommodation, among other things for LaGuardia Airport as well. So for MWB and local employment opportunities, I think it's important to talk about that, so let's go right into it. So LaGuardia Gateway Partners recently welcomed JLC Infrastructure, an affiliate of Magic Johnson Enterprises, Loop Capital, to the LaGuardia Central B redevelopment project as a minority and woman-owned or MWB equity member with a 5% stake in the total equity commitment for the project. And over the summer, LGP has also conducted its first competitive solicitation process for concessions at Concourse B, the first part of the new Terminal B to open. This was kicked off in the spring with an event that included a dedicated session for airport disadvantaged business enterprises about the opportunities that are there. We expect to announce the winners early next year. Over at both LaGuardia Terminal B and C and D, you can see that we've made excellent progress when you look at the contracting side. $286 million in WBE contracts. You've got $415 million there. And then as of October 2017, you've got 52 million in actually it's 52 MWBE contracts worth 24 million. And for Terminal B, 286 MWBE contracts worth $415 million. So actually significant progress in both areas, both for the Terminal B project and also for the C&D project. We've also committed and held several job fairs related to LaGuardia Airport. And Thursday, October 3rd, 2017 at Queensborough Hall, in conjunction with the QPP's office, we basically had over 600 job seekers attend, and with 28 employees offering 900 plus available positions to the job seekers. And on Thursday, April 27th, at Vaughan College, we have a really strong relationship with Vaughan College. We had over 350 job seekers attend the with over 30 employees. That included the LGP, included Skanska Walsh TSA that handles security for the airport, Prime Flight, Shell Aviation, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. That's just to name a few who attended the job for me. So I mentioned the potential for a hotel earlier, and you can see how that would work within the greater airport layout. This is basically directly adjacent to the central hall, and this is going to add a high-end option while not taking customers away from off-airport hotels that offer rooms for more budget-conscious travelers. The hotel also would have the potential to add first-class conference space for businesses, and this is actually going to be a very important amenity and attraction for travelers using LaGuardia Airport. And obviously, one of the key elements of the Governor's Advisory Panel recommendations was this unified airport. And when we looked at what business travelers wanted, they focused on the need for a luxury business hotel on par with those in Manhattan. And this will have a higher price point, as I said, and won't take customers away from off-airport hotels. So we recognize all of this work that we've been doing on the airport has created some challenges. I'm going to use the word some challenges with respect to vehicle removal.
I hadn't noticed.
Yes. Well, none of us have noticed, but I'll tell you that it's been a huge focus of ours throughout the entire redevelopment process. We actually have in place on a daily basis a traffic management center. And on a week-to-week basis, we take a look at how we have performed. And we look at the traffic, we look at airline loads, and we look at how we've done on a week-to-week basis to really ensure that we implement lessons learned. So it's a very, very important focus of ours, because obviously, if our customers can't get to and from the airport, we can't be successful. So while we're focused on managing traffic on a day-to-day basis, we're actually also focused on more work on our roadways, and more work on these roadways actually continues. We're actually enhancing the safety of the left turn off of Marine Air Terminal Road, and currently vehicles use 2 lanes for left turn, although it's only configured for one left turn to the left. So basically in the first diagram, that's actually how it's done legally. But obviously, there are many people that are competing to get out, and they will use the 2 lanes. We plan to make that an official 2 lanes for a left turn with a single lane to make a right turn. And that's actually going to improve pedestrian safety and allow us to get more people out more efficiently out of the west side of the airport. Let's see if I can do this. Got a little video for you.
Roadway improvements are underway to reduce traffic conditions from the Grand Central Parkway into LaGuardia Airport by providing direct access to each terminal. Use Exit 7 for Terminals C and D only. You can no longer access Terminal B or 94th Street from Exit 7. For access to Terminal B and 94th Street, use the new Exit 6. For access to Terminal A and long-term parking, use Exit 5. Visit LaGuardiaAirport.com for more information.
So while we're focused on west side improvements, we're also focused on the improvements on the east side as well. And beginning on August 19th, as you saw here, we've got a new traffic pattern that took effect for motorists traveling westbound on the Grand Central Parkway to LaGuardia Airport. And this provides for direct access to Terminal B and 94th Street, and the use of the new Exit 6 for Terminal C and D only, using Exit 7. No through traffic will be available from Exit 7.
Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Is it possible to get the slideshow in a email form?
Yes, it is. Yes, we can make that available to you.
So we can grab it and give it to all the community boards so that you have it for your members?
Yes, all right.
I assume that system has been working, right? We get this,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Right.
Because I say that every meeting, I want to make sure. It's actually working. No, so just to be clear, this is a borough board meeting, it's open to the public. But borough board members are the ones that ask questions and participate in the meeting, just to be clear on how the board meeting works, okay?
All right. So I also want to just point out we actually instituted some changes in a lot of places, including what we call FHV, for the for-hire vehicles, the Ubers and Lyfts of the world. We allocated 68 spaces for the FHV vehicles in the whole lot, and we run buses every 3 minutes to take the 6-minute ride from the long-term parking lot, Lot D, which is all the way in the back, and to a staging area to a passenger pickup at our guard post 1. All of these changes were important over the summer to improve the experience from last year to this year. We've seen significant improvement in traffic at LaGuardia following this significant move that we made with the for-hire vehicles. This was actually a very, very important move for the airport. Elsewhere, we actually created P4, a wait area for terminals C and D, which provides 3 hours of free parking as long as users of this area stay with their cars. And at P10, we did the same thing for the Terminal B wait area. 3 hours free, though users of this area, they don't have to stay with their cars. And decreasing trucks on Ditmars Boulevard is also one of our priorities, and we've actually done that, and it certainly is helping to mitigate traffic conditions. And this is just a shot of some of the signage that we have in place to reinforce what we're trying to do on Ditmars. So more parking spaces are coming to the airport, and we actually expect that to provide some additional relief in 2018. For close-in parking, we'll have the 3,200 space west garage, plus 2,000 spaces in the fully expanded east garage, which will equal 5,200 close-in spaces. Lot 10 can be used for long-term parking with up to 1,400 spaces if needed. So that's a very, very significant milestone for us, and we expect to see additional spaces beginning in the first quarter of 2018. So last month, the Port Authority Board approved funding for further study of AirTrain LaGuardia, and we're looking at the feasibility of a route to Willets Point, which will be subject to environmental review and will include public outreach. There's still a lot of work to be done in terms of study, but we know that there are clear benefits to building this system, not just for airport customers, but for neighborhoods that will see reduced vehicle traffic when folks shift from their cars to the train. The benefits of the AirTrain, certainly the direct connection from Midtown Manhattan to Willets Point via the Long Island Railroad with an easy transfer to the AirTrain system. Increased service to Willets Point for the Long Island Railroad Station. Potential ancillary facilities, including what we call a consolidated rental car facility, which should significantly improve the way customers get their rental cars. And improvements to the Passerelle and Flushing Meadow Corona Park. And potentially parking out there as well. So that could be a very important facility for us. And when you're dealing again with a facility the size of LaGuardia, it's important that we look at opportunities for additional support functions that are not as easily accommodated on here. So at the end of this week, we also are making some significant changes to the airline locations, and that's what we're calling our co-location plan. Saturday, December 9th, 6 airlines, American Airlines, Delta, Shuttle, Chicago, and Washington, D.C. JetBlue Airways, Alaska Airlines, Frontier Airlines, and Spirit will relocate to different terminals at LaGuardia, with Alaska and JetBlue going into Terminal A, Terminal B with Air Canada, American Shuttle, Southwest and United. Terminal C basically is going to be Delta with Frontier and Spirit, and also D is going to be Delta with Frontier, Spirit, and WestJet. Those co-locations are going to be of significant benefit for customers. and should lead to less movement of customers between terminals. And we're very, very pleased about that. We certainly had a very, very large media blitz to let our customers know that this is coming. So if there are no questions on LaGuardia Airport,
We're going to wait till you're done.
Okay.
If that's okay to ask questions?
there's a lot going on at JFK Airport as well. So let's talk a little bit about JFK. JFK handled nearly 60 million passengers in 2016. We expect to be at or above 60 million passengers in 2017. 1.3 million tons of cargo, 449,000 flights, 285,000 total jobs, 15 billion in wages, and $44 billion in annual economic activity. So, some time ago, earlier this year actually, the governor's advisory panel for aviation took a look at a whole vision for JFK Airport. And this created a need for a seamless, interconnected terminal system, an overhauled roadway access network, development of modern cargo facilities and improvements to aeronautical infrastructure, enhancements to transit, airside improvements, and obviously a very significant focus on world-class customer service, which is a major focus of ours. The advisory panel has also called for the redevelopment of JFK that really creates a different experience overall for passengers and potential consolidation of some terminal facilities. So in response to that effort, the Port Authority entered into an agreement with Mott MacDonald master planners to really lead the preliminary engineering process and development for JFK's $10 billion redevelopment. This agreement was a major step in the governor's plan to transform JFK Airport, which welcomes more international passengers to the United States than any other airport in the country. Approximately 30 million international passengers go through JFK every year. If you look at the number of domestic passengers that each of our airports handle, Newark, JFK, and LaGuardia, it's roughly the same. The significant difference is actually the amount of international passengers that each of the airports handle. So here are some of the central themes the governor announced earlier this year, starting with a ring road design that will actually enable for better access for the airport. What we do is we've got Mott MacDonald taking a look at all of these concepts and that are focused on a master plan to see how we can potentially realize the vision. It also included an emphasis on centralized parking lots with seamless access to the unified terminals. We're focused on looking at this and how that's going to work over the long term based on the new central terminal area or terminal city that's going to be designed. And of course, developing world-class amenities to put JFK in the same stratosphere as the world's highest rated airports like Singapore, Hong Kong, and Incheon. The reason why we hired Mott MacDonald and Grimshaw in the first place was they were a world-class master planner, and we wanted to make sure that we had those available resources as we looked at our airports and redeveloping our facilities for the future. And focusing on cargo, we're working to enhance and improve cargo operations at JFK Airport as well. And just in the last month, our board, the Port Authority board, authorized a lease agreement with the Aero JFK for a 346,000 square foot cargo hangar, also authorizing $62.2 million in upgrades to 2 taxiways at JFK Airport. Now these projects alone are important and significant, but these projects also represent the first installment, the first level of improvements pursuant to the governor's vision. And it also allows us to start to build out Cargo City in the north area of the airport, where our master planners and others feel is the best opportunity for cargo growth at that airport. So ultimately, JFK's transformation calls for a historic level of reinvestment, including state funding for the Vanderbilt expansion. And also we're focused on looking at a potential one-seat ride. We're not Um, uh, we're not precluding any options when it comes to the redevelopment of these airports and trying to achieve the world and first-class level that our airports deserve. But a significant level of investments would include what the Port Authority is looking to spend, private sector investment, and also the involvement from the state. And really the final result is going to be a unified, connected, and vibrant JFK. This is just a rendering of what it could look like, but we're very, very focused on making sure it is the best experience possible for our customers, and that it is actually bright and airy and easy to use, and not with the level of confusion that many airports across the country experience today. So with that, I want to thank you, and I'm happy to take some questions from you.
Sure. Thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
And we look forward to getting the slides, and we'll
Sure.
transfer them to the community board so that they can either give them themselves to their boards, or if they want a special presentation, maybe in boards 3, 1, 13. You know, especially, for now, let's take the slides.
Sure.
And then we'll
make them available to you.
on that. A few quick things, if I can. We spoke to the Port Authority, New York State DOT, all the agencies about doing some, I guess it would be temporary revisions to the Van Wyck in order to alleviate some of the traffic. So although I know that that's not your area, you see Hirsch left the room right on cue. But Justin will forward that information
Right.
and tell him that we.
He's here.
Mr. Joe.
As soon as you left, I had a question.
So I was just expressing the need to have some temporary alleviation of traffic on Van Wyck, awaiting the final revisions of the highway. We talked about it. I just want to make sure that we don't let that slip. You know, the Linden Boulevard exit and that area there where we all get off at Atlantic and take, you know, Metropolitan down. We'd like to alleviate some of the burden on that community. Right. The second thing is just, again, really not your purview.
Sure.
But the Long Island Railroad at City Field already has, if I'm not mistaken, $50 million in the capital budget to start it as a totally commuter train. I've spoken to the governor already at a few points, but especially like there's no reason to wait. It's a perfectly working railroad that during the games, City Field and during USDA is open.
So I
So we
think
can work on that beforehand, that'd be great.
So I think the big thing that railroad wants to look at is just the impact on the capacity of the trains, making that more regular stop before air travel. So they're looking into that, so hopefully we can announce something, but that's sort of the hiccup on that.
So doing it early would be good practice.
Right.
For the future
Yes.
ridership.
Yes.
But no, seriously, it would be a great, I think, thing for the community
Yes.
to be able to use that location as a community
And
train.
we've spoken to the railroad about that as well, so that's something to
I
do.
appreciate it. And I just, in all fairness, I was on the redesign commission for LaGuardia Kennedy. And so I think everyone knows that. And I expressed reservations at that time about a hotel at LaGuardia.
Yes.
I am concerned about the surrounding hotels in the neighborhood and the effect that it has. My understanding is that phase was in a later phase, if at all.
It's actually still being looked at, and I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
and we understand the concern. One of the, first of all, it's an odd footprint. It's narrow, it's high. One of the things that it won't have is, it's not going to be a place for bar mitzvahs and weddings, and it's not that kind of catering. We'll be catering for business meetings that are there, but it's not intended to be, you know, a catering hall that's going to start potentially sucking business from other hotels. So it's really designed as something, one of the things the business travelers told us is they go to other cities and they literally, you know, fly in, have a meeting at the airport and fly back home. Of course, as a region, we like when they fly in, stay a couple days, spend a lot of money on hotels and other things, but we're also trying to be responsive to that's what they say they want. That's what we see at places like Dallas and Denver, and so we want to start being that same, competing on that same level. So the whole purpose of this hotel is very different than the ones surrounding the airport that are serving, that will continue to serve the flight crews and other people who have other business in the borough and in the city. So we have a study that's going on that supports that and actually says it can't compete with the other hotels in terms of having the catering facilities, which are so integral to those other hotels.
So my father told me that language is really important. I was talking about it in a conditional sense, and you were talking about it sort of in a way that's... So all I'm saying is that I hope it's not a done deal. And so,
No.
but I think that it needs further discussion with the community, with the community boards.
Yeah.
At the end, it may be a great idea, but I think it needs to have some further discussion.
We're open to having that discussion.
Those have been ongoing, so they'll continue.
Right.
So, yeah, let's do that. Any Arcade?
So, all these big plans, that I think I worked on some of them 25 years ago when I was in the business. Where's the funding source? How am I going to raise this money? Where's it coming from?
For the project?
Yeah, the two airports. Because we already know about the Van Wyck Expressway widening, the Gardens Interchange reconstruction, and the Grand Central Interchange reconstruction, and we're assuming the governor finding that money somewhere, and he hasn't found money yet for the Tappan Zee Bridge. So, where's this money come from?
So the on-airport construction is a combination of Port Authority capital funds, passenger facility charges, and private sector funding.
So that increases in all of those
no,
categories?
those if you look at our 2017 to 2020, 2026 capital plan, there's funding in that capital plan already fully funded for these projects. On the LaGuardia side, there's funding already allocated for that. For instance, if you look at the LaGuardia project, LaGuardia Terminal C, the Port Authority is putting up $600 million in funding. Delta Airlines is actually funding the rest. For LaGuardia Terminal B, the Port Authority put up some funding for infrastructure, and the private sector investor is putting up the rest. At JFK, the Port Authority has $1 billion in capital funding that it's funding through its own internal resources. And the private sector is expected to put up the rest. And when I say private sector, I mean the airlines and others that might be interested in developing terminals. So
there's no pass-through to the taxpayer or the user of the airlines?
So again, passenger facility charges are collected and allocated specifically for approved airport projects. And there's no additional PFCs envisioned. These funds have all been allocated for the projects that I've actually done.
So we should see no increases in taxes or airfares or...
Well, I can't speak to how the airlines handle their pricing for for airfares, but I can tell you that the funding for the Port Authority projects is already included in the capital plan. It includes funding that we would get from revenues and also from borrowing. It does not anticipate any increase in passenger facility charges. And Patty's right next to me. She handles passenger facility charges, and she can tell you that
it's actually capped at
it's capped at 450. There's no increase in that. So that's important for you to know.
This past holiday weekend, the traffic reporters on the radio were advising passengers going to LaGuardia to get out of the vehicle and walk because the vehicles are moving at 3 miles an hour and a person can walk at 4 miles an hour. What are you doing to alleviate that?
Well, I can tell you that we actually took, this is the Monday right after Thanksgiving, and we actually had our resources in place to handle that situation. But the lesson learned is we needed to be out there a lot sooner. There was a significant influx of traffic early on, and what happens is if you don't have the resources in place in advance ahead of time, then the situation gets a little worse. We were prepared for that day, and as you can see, it was very short and limited time period.
6 to 9 a.m.
Exactly, but more like an hour and a half where we had this experience. But I can tell you, what we've seen overall in traffic at LaGuardia Airport since we made that FHB move in August has been significant improvement. And if you look back to April of last year, of 2016, that's really the last time, April 2017 was the last time we've really seen the traffic get that bad at LaGuardia Airport. And that's really comes from continued emphasis day to day and week to week to manage the situation as early as possible. So the lesson learned that day was that we needed to be out there earlier. We managed to keep it as contained as possible, but we needed to be out there soon.
So we'll learn that lesson for Christmas, right? Because that's
No,
probably I didn't.
Yeah, no, we.
No, I mean that's probably the next big load of passengers, right? I assume.
That's it is, and what we actually monitor it. We get all the information from the airlines, and our resources will be in place much earlier. When I say much earlier, I'm talking 4 o'clock in the morning. You know, 3 o'clock in the morning, even though there's no flight activity around the airport. But that's where it will be.
Yeah. Also,
Justin, Rebecca?
yes, thank you. I'd just say also that the passenger numbers remain very high on LaGuardia. So there have been very few spikes like you saw this past Monday, but that is an indication that the airport's continuing to run with lots of flights, lots of passengers. So I just want to point that out. It's not like people are staying away from the airport in droves.
It was clear that you really weren't coordinated with the airlines on Monday to realize that you were going to have that one gigantic bunch of people early in the morning.
Well, we're always coordinated, to be honest, because we get their feeds and information all the time. So that is consistent with Terminal C traffic, Terminal D, and also Terminal B. The real issue is once there's this huge push in volume, making sure that, and again, one hiccup on the roadways, because we've got a lot of areas under construction, one hiccup, and it starts to cascade.
You shouldn't really see it Christmas and New Year's because it's more spread out. This was the one day factor that should have happened the night before, that Sunday night. They should be going out, but they wound up going out.
Well, Sunday night, and one of the things that we also focus on is impacts of weather and delays, and that's how we'll spread out our resources. And this particular day, it was an anomaly, and it was really spread out over about an hour and a half period. We quickly recovered, and the rest of the day worked out very good.
Thank you. Denise?
Quick
And then
question.
Marie?
I'm not sure if you can answer. Has there been any discussion about lowering the perimeter wall to allow for larger jets to land? Has there been any discussion about that?
I mean, I can.
Go ahead.
I mean, yeah. Well, sure, it's no problem. So for us, when we look at all of our airports, we look at the system that we have in place. Don't forget, we operate a system of airports, and this is a legacy system that's been in place for 30, 40 years. And so there were some proprietary policies that were put in place a long time ago, including a look at the perimeter rule. So we are always evaluating the merits of the rules that were in place 35, 40 years ago. We haven't made any conclusions yet, but it's just something that we think about as we are trying to grow and compete with other airports across the country and across the world.
Marie?
Well, I wasn't going to refer to this particular comment,
Sure.
but that would have a drastic impact on the residents in the neighborhood if we allow even larger jets.
Right.
That's my personal opinion.
No.
But I
Understood.
also want to go back to Monday,
Uh-huh.
and I don't think, and the borough president will agree with me, that we can never forget the impact that that hour and a half had on the residents and those people trying to get to work who were impacted by the traffic at the LaGuardia. Just because I was one of them.
Very valid point. Very valid point, and I'll tell you that we are focused as much as possible to relieve the congestion in the neighborhood, and I can certainly understand the impact that hour and a half had on residents. And what I will do is actually take that comment back to our staff, because as we focus on what happens day to day, sometimes it's possible to lose sight on the impact of the local residents when we've got traffic circulating into the neighborhood. So I'll definitely think.
Dolores?
Yeah, I have one question for JFK and then two
Sure.
questions that would apply to both airports. JFK, I didn't see any indication of truck parking. I know that they provided truck parking, and my understanding is it's now at capacity, so all those trucks are now back parking in the neighborhood. And so is there going to be an expansion of truck parking in the JFK plan?
Accommodating trucks related to cargo is definitely something that we're looking at holistically. You're correct that we built a truck stop with parking, with restaurants and other facilities and amenities. It's been more popular than we anticipated, and looking to expand that and exploring other opportunities to accommodate trucks, because trucks ought to be close to where they're going to be offloading or unloading for cargo.
So I would like for certainly communities
Sure.
for 12 and 13, I guess, in particular, to be kept aware of that, because
Okay.
that's the areas that are most impacted by that,
Right.
okay? Because
Thank
we
you.
know they're back on the streets, so.
Right.
Then in terms of, have you thought as an alternative, our favorite new mode of transportation, ferries to either of the airports? I know when I fly into Logan in Boston, I take a ferry into downtown.
So the short answer to that is yes. We are focused on looking at all modes of transportation to and from the airport, because I think we all recognize that the reliability of travel from Manhattan to the airports, we just can't depend on as much. It's not as, if you look at predictability, it's just not where it used to be. So we are certainly focused on looking at all of the different opportunities.
Oh, okay, because I didn't see any reference for either airport.
No, we less so with JFK, but I know we're certainly looking at opportunities for ferries over the long term. We did something, a study probably several years back, 2013, focused on ferries into LaGuardia, primarily the old landing port around by the Marina Terminal. Yes. And obviously, got to make sure that there is the right economics and right commercial deal to support that. But it is something that we...
Maybe you could become part of the New York City ferry and then it's only $275.
But it's certainly something that we are looking at through our Office of Ferry Transportation.
Then in terms of jobs, at LaGuardia you made mention of 2 job fairs. And I would just be interested, do you have any statistics of how many people were actually hired out of those job fairs? Because just advertising that we have job fairs and we don't get anyone hired is really false advertising. So do we have any information about how many people actually
Yeah,
hired?
normally we end up, I know because we do them together, normally we end up with almost full employment from those job fairs, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know about the other one that you did at LaGuardia.
Yes.
But I know here we normally do. I don't, do the numbers indicate that?
The numbers are, I wouldn't say 100%, but the numbers are fairly high about callback interviews and then job placements.
Do we have a way of tracking that though?
Yeah, we do.
We do?
We do. We'll
So-
bring back some information.
If you don't have, that's a really good question. If we don't have the numbers now, can we figure out how many came from those 2 job fairs? I'd just be interested just to put it in perspective.
Because I think it's also important for people looking for jobs. Am I wasting my time going to this job fair, or am I really going to get a job?
At least I know when we do it, we make sure that there's a certain number of jobs actually available and try to vet people a little bit. But if we can get those numbers, I'll disseminate it to the whole board.
Great, thank
Okay?
Good.
And next we have,
One last job question, sorry. At JFK, you said there are 285,000 jobs there, and I would be curious.
Direct and indirect.
Okay,
I
okay.
just want to make sure that we're clear, because on the airport itself is about 40,000. When you start to look at the cargo community, FICFOs, that's direct and indirect jobs.
Okay, so
Thank you for
then,
it. That's the clarification.
yes,
Thank you.
okay, I appreciate that. So the direct jobs are 40,000.
On airport.
Could you share with the borough president how many of those jobs are held by Queens residents?
I probably can get that information because we can do a zip code
That would be
search.
great. I
Yes.
think that would help
Sure.
us.
Even
I'd
if
like
you
to know
can't
that.
do the indirect jobs, because you might not be able to do trucking companies and all that.
I can do direct.
But you
I
can
can
do
do
the
direct.
direct jobs.
Yeah,
I can do direct, because
Yeah.
I can get that information through the, and we've done that before. We'll
Okay.
look
That'd be
at the,
Great,
database.
thank you, thanks.
We'll do it for both.
So this is the order: Christine, Renee, Philip, and Joe.
Okay, thank you. What the borough president said about the hotel is also concerning to me, because there is a lot of hotels 2 minutes away, right on the other side of the highway. And also about the larger planes that Marie mentioned, as a person who lives in a flight pad, but I digress. Having very larger would not be good. And the ferry's a good idea, I like the ferry, because that would open up the Marine Air Terminal more, actually.
Renee.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sure.
hi. LaGuardia Airport Hotel that we're talking about, where would the parking be? And would there be a charge to park since you have the lots?
See, you're really having people fly in and fly out.
Okay, so it's, I mean.
Yeah, it's,
so
so
not
that's
the
where it's
traditional
not like
hotel where
another
it's like-
hotel where the parking is airport parking.
Right.
So it's going to be very limited, the people who come from the region to go to this hotel. So it's not really, it's not a trip generator, the people are flying in and flying out.
Okay, all right, my daughter's a flight attendant, so I've been at LaGuardia, she hates flying out of LaGuardia because by the time she parks in the employee parking lot, which I think is same as a long-term parking lot.
Actually, it's further out, it's probably off airport in the Ingram's Mountain.
All right, is it, I mean, the transportation from that site to catch her flight is a real turnoff. I can't remember how long it is, but it's more, it can make her late.
Right.
Are you gonna have the AirTran go all the way?
So the air train,
AirTran?
maybe I can see the, I can actually show you sort of for LaGuardia. Maybe this actually will do it. So AirTran is actually going to go as far as Terminal B. The challenge is you've got the runway 4, and getting around that end. You can't get the AirTran out there. With respect to employee parking, we are actually focused on a way to get employee parking closer than a better spot on airport. And that's something that we're looking to do in 2018. And you'll have closer in location and better transportation on it. That's what
We're also looking potentially at the Village Place side, putting parking there.
over the long term.
And then you would take the train to your,
Because I'm stressed out when she's late.
So that's why I mentioned parking at Willis Point for it provides the opportunity potentially for employee parking. Yes.
So a lot of my concerns were already addressed about the hotel, also some concerns in CV3 about the air train, just things like noise and whatnot, but I understand it's still under study. I did want to say thank you to the Port Authority for showing up regularly and keeping us in the loop, because that's very important. Also, some of the measures that you showed in the slideshow, like putting up the signage, like about truck restrictions and whatnot, goes a long way to really making the community keeping them happy. Because there have been some problems like damage from trucks slowing down inappropriate routes. One other question I would add, talking about the traffic in and out, also maybe it's more of an MTA thing, but I didn't know if you guys were in communication with them regarding, say, like the Q47 bus. I know there's been some talk about a redesign of the route and whatnot, so but just to put that out there, because there have been some issues with people using the Q47.
Well, we will look specifically at the 47. I know we've focused on the 60 and some other routes, but we'll look at the 47 specifically. We're making some improvements and including adding some stops on the airport for the 60.
And just to that point, very quickly, there between the Port Authority and the MTA, there is regular communication. So a good example of that is during high travel periods, the MTA and the Port Authority work together to offer the Q70 LaGuardia Link service free, so to encourage folks to get out of cars, use the buses, and take cars off the Grand Central Park as a means to help address the traffic. So they're in constant contact.
Joe Hennessy?
I'm very disappointed in your presentation that you haven't included the ferries. Both airports are surrounded by water. The air train is going to take time. The ferries are there now to be utilized. And why didn't you said you did a study in 2013. What was the results of that study on the ferries? What was the results?
We actually put an RFP out on the street looking for a ferry operator and got zero responses. Yeah, but the ferry culture has changed since then, admittedly. So
we actually solicited for interest. We said could be viable. There was no interest. There's obviously some improvements that would have to be made at the location so you could actually dock on there safely. But it's really about getting passengers and folks that are willing to make the journey for the cost that it would take to operate. But I think, as Patty says, the ferry environment is certainly quite different, and something that we're looking at.
Well, New York City is having a change of mind regarding the ferries. We're finally beginning to use them. And I mean, to me, it's born in Europe. It's impossible not to think that we're not using the waterways as transportation for the public. And you can get amphibious vehicles that come right onto the land and drive right up to a terminal. It doesn't have to be a ferry strictly tied to the water. You can get the vehicle like they do in Boston, and you come right up to the terminal. I think that's worth looking at, rather than the air train is going to be a big problem. It's not going to happen overnight. Ferries, the water is there right now. You can punch the ferry and start the system. I'm quite sure the hotels would really want something like that. I mean, in other cities they have it. Why are we so hesitant in using our waterways?
Thank you for your comment. Thank you. Appreciate it.
So, Queens, the borough that has the 2 New York City airports, would love it if the administration would look towards the ferry system. I think the culture in all seriousness has changed, right? It's 2013, we take ferries now, it's a 5-borough ferry system in place. You know, it's worth really taking a close look at and trying to move forward on something. Any year, the last one.
Just a little in their defense.
Yeah.
You can't get to JFK by ferry because of the subway line and Low Bridge.
But I think we're really talking mostly about the
Rockaway ferries couldn't go as far Rockaway.
So there
I think
was,
we're really talking about the
just in the advisory panel, there was a recommendation to look at ferry service to Warden. So that is something that is
That's what
still,
Joe's saying.
right, so it will be explored as an option again, you know, see sort of what has changed since 2013.
We're good? Mr. Lawrence, we appreciate your presentation. Patty, Hirsch, Justin, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
We thank you, and do you all know how to follow up if we have any follow-up questions from our community board members?
Sure.
Right, we don't need to give out email addresses, nothing like that, we're good. Next meeting is January 8th, 2018 at 5:30. We wish everyone an extremely happy and healthy holiday season. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy
Thank you for those questions.
Oh, and this got it done, right?